Good day, everyone. Today we are going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. So first of all, remember fractions are a part of a whole. So I'll give you a couple examples there. Also, when you add and subtract fractions, you must get a common denominator. Let's do a couple examples. Alright, so here's a couple examples. We're going to take 3/4 plus negative 5/6. Same rules apply with integers as fractions. You're going to take the sign of the larger absolute value, but before you determine if one's larger than the other, get a common denominator first. Okay, so our denominator is 4 and 6, so I want the least common denominator. It's the easiest way to go. You don't have to have the least common denominator. If you want, you can always multiply the two. 4 times 6 is 24, and you can use that. But just remember, you might have to reduce at the end. Okay, so I'm looking for the least common denominator. So the smallest number that 4 and 6 will go into is 12. So my common denominator is going to be 12. Okay. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to look, what did you multiply the 4 by to get 12? And I had to multiply the 4 by a 3. So you need to do the same thing with the numerator. So 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm changing my 3/4 to 9/12. Okay. Now the next one, I had to take 6 times 2 to get 12. So I'm going to do the same thing. 5 times 2 is 10, and that's a negative. Okay. So I have 9/12 plus negative 10/12. Now if I look at those, 10 is larger than 9, so I know my answer is going to be negative. Okay. Common denominator stays, and 9 and negative 10 is negative 1. So my answer is negative 1/12. Okay. Alright, the next one, this is a subtraction problem, but remember it's the same thing. If you would like, you can add the opposite. Okay. So number that 8 and 4 will go into, 8 and 4 will go into 8. Again, if you want, you can just multiply the two, but you will have to reduce later. So I took 8 times 1, so I'm going to do the same thing. 1 times 1 is 1. This one I had to take 4 times 2 to get 8, so I'm going to take 3 times 2 and get 6, and that's a negative. Right, so 6 is greater than 1, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And 1 plus negative 6 is negative 5, and there's my answer. Okay. Alright, next one, 7/6 minus a negative 1/2. Remember, whenever you have two signs, a negative subtraction or two negatives next to each other, changes it to a positive. So this is now 7/16 plus 1/2. Common denominator is 16. Okay, I had to take 16 times 1 to get 16, so 7 times 1. I had to take 2 times 8 to get 16, so 1 times 8 is 8. Okay. Here they're the same sign, so I'm going to add 7 plus 8 is 15. So my answer is 15/16. Okay. On to multiplication and division. Oh, by the way, just a little interesting fact. Did you know that refrigerated rubber bands last longer than rubber bands at room temperature? Same with apples too. They last about 10 days longer if you can put them in the refrigerator. Alright, first one's multiplication. We have 5/8 times a negative 2/3. Now with multiplication and division, you do not need to get a common denominator. Okay, you can cancel if you like, cross cancel. You don't have to. I like to cross cancel, so I'll show you both ways. Okay, you're looking opposite. 5 and 3, do they have anything in common? They do not. The 8 and 2, they do have 2 in common, so I can take the 8 divided by 2 and get 4. And then the negative 2 divided by 2, and I get 1. Multiply straight across. So you have 5 times negative 1, you get negative 5. And then 4 times 3, and you get 12. Okay. Now, if you do not get a common denominator, I'm sorry, not common denominator, if you do not cross cancel, okay, you just have to reduce. So 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And then 8 times 3 is 24. Okay? And if you look at that, 2 will go into both of those. So 2 will go into negative 10, negative 5 times, and 2 will go into 24, 12 times. So negative 5/12. Same answer either way. Right? Now we're going to do a division problem. Division we need to change into multiplication. Okay, so when you're changing division and multiplication, you're always going to take your second fraction and we're going to take the reciprocal of it. So that means we're going to flip it. Okay, when you flip it or take the reciprocal, you do not have to flip the negative with it, it can stay. So I'm going to rewrite this one. So I'm going to keep the negative 3/4, change it to multiplication, and now it's going to be negative 3 over 2. So all I did was flip that. Okay. Now I can't cross cancel, so I'm going to multiply straight across. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. Remember, negative times a negative makes a positive. And then 4 times 2 is 8. So my answer is 9/8. And in algebra, we leave improper fractions. Do not change that to 1 1/8, okay, to a mixed number. In algebra, we like improper fractions. They just need to be reduced. Okay, all right, the next one, it's a division again. So I'm going to take my 4/5 and I'm going to flip it. So we have negative 9/10 times 5 over 4. Okay, I'm going to cancel the 5 and the 10. 5 will go into 10 2 times. 5 will go into 5 1 time. Okay, and you multiply straight across. So we have negative 9 times 1 is negative 9, and 2 times 4 is 8. So negative 9/8 is my answer. Okay. And that's it for fractions. If you do get a mixed number, change it to improper before you multiply or divide. It's a lot easier.